Hi everyone, this is Tuplex. Welcome back. It's been a while since the last episode, and the reason it's been taking me so long is because coming up with a plan for Phase 4 has been a pretty big challenge. Things are getting rather complicated, and I've been spending a lot of time trying to figure out how to proceed from the point that we're at now, and I think I have a pretty decent plan, and we'll get into that shortly, and get started with some of the work on that today. But before I do that, I wanted to take a look at this intersection and the signaling, because at the end of the last episode, I was having a little bit of trouble, but I think I was basically on the right track with it. What you want to do now? This is obviously I'm using one-way rails, right? So I'm doing right-hand drive. So the right-hand rail goes forward, and the left-hand rail is going in the opposite direction. Just like driving on the road in many countries. And essentially, the way that you need to signal this is you put a block signal on your exits, and you put a path signal on the entrance to the junction. So if we look at this segmented track here, basically, I put a block signal here on the exit of the junction, and then this path signal will essentially give you it'll give you a green signal when this signal is green, or if this one is red, then this one will just repeat it. This one will be red as well, so that that way when you're coming this way, you wouldn't block the junction by stopping here on the red signal. You'll stop back here instead, and that way if a train needs to get out here, it'll be free to do so. So that's kind of a simple mnemonic that you can follow, just to put block signals on the output and put path signal on the input, and I did that here in every case, right? So I have a block signal there, and then a block signal here, right? And then this path signal will change depending on where you are. As you get closer to it, this will either go green or red if you have a path that you can go through. And then same thing if we're looking at it from this direction, right? In this case, we can only turn left, so there's my block signal there, and here's my path signal here. So if that's green, this will turn green when I get close to it, and it'll allow me to proceed. And if that's red, then this will be red, and it'll require the train to stop here so that it doesn't block the junction. Okay. From this direction, once again, block signal going out, path signal going in, and it works. So hopefully that helps. The other thing that I did is since this train line is now going to be shared by two different trains, one for the aluminum and then the one over there for the plastic, I added signaling all along the route, so that way we can have multiple trains traveling on the same path at the same time. If I didn't put all these signals here, then as soon as a train got out onto the main line, then the whole path would be red for any other train, and we don't want that. We want them to be able to follow one another. Now, unfortunately, the the design of these rail pedestals, or whatever you want to call them, when I did them, I didn't realize that there was not going to be enough room for a signal to fit in. What I really wanted to do was have the signal there in the middle, but well, you can see why that doesn't work. So, so I just put a block signal, in front of each of the pedestals in both directions, so that way I can have multiple trains running on the same track. Okay, so I think that covers what was pending from the last time. And now let's get into the plan for phase 4. And it's a bit of a doozy. Phase 4 has four different parts that are needed for the project assembly. So like we did in the previous phases, I've got this set up to basically where we are going to have one machine producing each of those, and that machine is going to be summer slooped to give us double the output, and that's what we're going to be making. Now the total production chain for phase 4 is very complicated, right? If I tried to do this all in one production plan, it's just going to look like spaghetti, and it'll probably end up looking like spaghetti when I build it too. So what I decided to do instead was I started with this, final part of phase 4, and then I did a -1 and a -2 stage, just to try to simplify it and make it a little easier to comprehend and organize my inputs and outputs and so forth. So starting with the final, like I said, I have one machine making each. I know that I want to make, well, let's just look at these one by one. So we have the assembly director system. This uses adaptive control units, which we are already making in the phase 3 factory. Okay, so we're not going to make that again. I'm just going to belt them over. Right, so we've got 2 per minute being made for phase 3, and we need 1.5 per minute for phase 4. So we're good there. We'll just belt those over into the phase 4 factory, or deliver them with drones or something. We'll figure out some way to get them there. Okay, so that'll count as an input to this segment of the factory. And then it also requires supercomputers. So I'm going to make those using the OC supercomputer alternate recipe. And the reason that I did that is because then we can make it with radio control units and cooling systems, which we're already going to have to produce to make some of the other items. So I thought this would make it, this would make the production chain a little bit simpler to use this recipe. Now we also need supercomputers to build some things, like Mark III miners, for example. There's some other equipment that we need supercomputers for to build the factory, which is why I set this to a full machine, and I'm also going to sloop this one to give us some extra output to go into storage. So that's what you'll see. So we'll be making about 5 a minute for ourselves, and then using almost 1 a minute for the actual production of the project part. The next part are magnetic field generators, and those are using versatile frameworks, which we've been making since phase 2, right? So again, that'll be an input that we'll just bring in from the other part of the factory. And then we need electromagnetic control rods. And I'm going to bring those in from another section as well. Because as you go through this, you'll see that these electromagnetic control rods are used in several different places. So I thought, okay, well, here's another opportunity to kind of consolidate things. We'll just produce enough electromagnetic control rods to take care of everything that needs them, and we'll make those in their own dedicated little production line. And then we have the nuclear pasta, which needs copper powder, which is just made from copper ingots, but a lot of them. So as you can see here, we're going to have, to make the copper ingots that we need just to keep this one machine running, normally we would need 600 copper ingots per minute, which is why I decided to sloop this one. So we'll be able to get by with 300 copper per minute. but that's a lot of copper, right? But in this case, one machine that's got summer sloops in it will be able to make the 100 copper powder per minute that we need to keep that running. And then we need these things called pressure conversion cubes, and those are made from radio control units, again, and fused modular frames. So we're going to bring those in. And then the last one here is the thermal propulsion rocket. And these last three are all the standard recipes, by the way. So this is going to use modular engines, which again is another part that we're already making in phase 3. We need turbo motors. We need cooling systems, right? Just like we do over here. And this also needs fused modular frames. Right, so I started to lay this out and just look for common parts and components that are used in multiple places, and just sort of focused on making those, and where I can, selecting alternate recipes that try to use as many of the same parts and sub-assemblies as possible, just to try to simplify it as much as I can. So the plan that I'm showing here, this might not be the most efficient one. It might, in terms of like power consumption or material consumption or whatever. I know that if you have the desire, you can find, optimal combinations of alternate recipes that, use the least amount of material or the least amount of power or the least amount of buildings or whatever. But in this playthrough, I what's more important to me, simplicity is more important to me than efficiency. So I'm really striving just to kind of keep things as simple as I can. Now these turbo motors, these are also required to build things. So I'm going to make a little bit of extra production on those. In this case, it'll give us like 2 a minute, which I hope will be enough, to keep us so that we don't run out of parts when we're trying to build things. But if this turns out to be leaving us short, then I can always summer sloop this one as well. But for now, I think we'll probably be okay without it. I'm going to try not to sloop everything, because that'll just make my power consumption go through the roof. All right, so this will be like one, let's say, a dedicated area of the Phase 4 factory that's just going to make this stuff. Okay. And then once I have this, now I can see clearly these are all the things that I need to produce to make this part run. So I come back here and I start working on this. So in phase 4 -1, which is, the next level down, I'm going to be making radio control units, cooling systems, electromagnetic control rods, and fused modular frames. Now in this case, I'm not making extras to build things necessarily. Well, I guess I am making a little bit extra. So, like for example, the radio control units, we need a little over 15, and I'm going to be making almost 19 a minute, right? So yeah, so I am producing like slightly over requirements here. Not a whole lot, because these are complicated to produce and require a lot of resources to get done. So, but I am making a little bit extra, because these are all parts that are used again to make, production buildings and things like that. So we'll need to make some extra so that we have them for ourselves. Okay, so here in this segment, I'm going to be making those. The radio control unit, I'm using an alternate recipe called radio connection unit. That's going to use high-speed connectors. The cooling systems, also, I'm using another recipe that's a little bit simpler. I think the standard recipe for cooling system requires water and nitrogen. This recipe that I've chosen doesn't require water, right? So I've got one less input to worry about. The electromagnetic control rods, this is the standard recipe that just uses stators and AI limiters. We've already made some of those before. And then the fused modular frames. This is the standard recipe. So we use heavy modular frames, aluminum casing, and nitrogen gas. Okay. So I've got two machines that are going to use nitrogen gas. So we'll have to bring that in from somewhere. I haven't decided how to do that yet. We might bring it by train. You can use a fluid wagon on a train to move nitrogen if you need to. It's not only for liquids. Yeah, and then we've got two items that are using heat sinks. So I've got, I'm using the heat exchanger recipe for heat sinks. That's using aluminum casing and rubber rather than all-clad aluminum sheet and copper sheet. I think this is a little bit easier to achieve. You can see we need quite a few machines making this stuff, but that's okay. The high-speed connectors will be producing here. I think I can get by without making extra high-speed connectors. Because aside from this stuff, I don't think we need these, particularly for many production buildings. So I decided not to make extra inventory. I can always handcraft a few if I need them here and there. AI limiters we're already making in the phase 2 factory for our own personal use. At least I think it's the phase 2 factory. Yeah, we're already making AI limiters there for ourselves. So so that way in phase 4 I don't need to make any extra. I can just produce exactly what we need. Now the heavy modular frames I am going to bring in from the phase 3 factory because I'm already producing, we're producing extra there. So again, I'll take advantage of that and use those just so I don't have to set up a whole modular frame production again. That will decrease the amount per minute that we're making for ourselves, but I don't feel like I use tons and tons of those, so hopefully that'll be okay. Yeah, so the high-speed connectors we're making from, let me see, which recipe is this? I'm going to use the silicon high-speed connector recipe, which uses silicon instead of cables, because making cables requires a lot of wire, and yeah, this will be a little bit easier. Silicon is pretty easy to produce in high quantities. Same with the AI limiter. I'm using the plastic AI limiter recipe, which just takes plastic and quick wire. I'll be making circuit boards here, just because we require a lot more than I'm making in the other factory. So we'll just build those ourselves. And again, using an alternate recipe, I'm using the Caterium circuit board recipe. So that way we can make AI limiters and circuit boards from the same ingredients. And then obviously with all this, we're going to need a heck of a lot of Caterium wire, or quick wire, I should say. 1,400 a minute, it looks like. So this will be a bit of a logistical challenge, and a lot of machines too. And I'm going to use the fused quick wire recipe, which adds in some copper and consumes a lot less Caterium. Okay, so this is the -1 segment of the phase 4 factory, which again, when you look at, when we break it down into chunks and we look at it, this is fairly simple, right? We have a manageable number of inputs and a manageable number of outputs, and this is something that we can work on and be able to fairly easily figure out what needs to go where. And then we look at, okay, these are all the inputs that we need for this. Where do we get all these? Well, we're going to get them from another segment. Just like here, this final segment, we're getting inputs from the previous segment, and we're also getting inputs from outside, right? So like the frames, the modular engine, or these first three, rather, these are all coming from the phase 3 factory. and then the rest of the items we get either from here or from here. All right, so then that means that phase 4 needs aluminum, it needs rubber, we need quartz crystal. What was the quartz crystal for? Oh yeah, the quartz crystal was for the radio control units. Right, so we're going to have to use quartz for the first time in mass production here, as well as the nitrogen, as I mentioned, and then everything else we're either already making or we're going to get from the first part of the factory. So let's look at the first part. So here we need to make our aluminum stuff from aluminum ingots. We need to make the quartz crystal and the silica. We need to make a boatload of copper ingots, motors, stators, rotors, and also I'm going to be making batteries. Now, we don't need batteries for the factory, but I do want batteries for drones. That'll be the fuel source that we use for drones. So I'm going to set up a small battery production as well. And again, here I'm using an alternate recipe. I'm using the classic battery recipe, which to me seems a little simpler. The standard recipe, I think, is really meant to be made alongside of aluminum because it uses alumina solution, aluminum casing, which you get from the ingots, and then sulfuric acid, which of course you make from the sulfur. So once again, just to make things simpler, I decided to use this alternate recipe. That way I don't need to manage any fluids. I can just bring in solid ingredients. We will have to find some sulfur and bring that in to the factory, either by belt or train or drone or whatever. 90 a minute is all we need, which is not a ton. And then we need the all-clad aluminum sheet, which we're already going to be making here, and then plastic and wire. Right, which is easy enough to get. Yeah, and the motors and things, we're all pretty familiar with that. We'll make the all-clad aluminum sheet, which requires copper. Aluminum casing only requires aluminum ingots. We've already got those covered. I'm going to be using the pure quartz crystal recipe to make the quartz crystal. That way we use water along with the raw quartz, and that significantly reduces the amount of raw quartz that we need, right? The standard recipe needs 37.5 raw quartz to make 22.5 quartz crystal, whereas with the pure recipe, 67 raw quartz plus water makes 52.5 quartz crystal. Right, so it's, I don't know, what's this? This is about like a 3-to-2 ratio, where this is getting closer to a 1-to-1 ratio. Maybe it's 6-to-5 or something like that. But anyway, it uses less quartz that way. So that's why I chose that recipe. In similar fashion, we're going to use the pure copper ingot recipe. So again, you combine with water to make the ingots in a refinery rather than using a smelter, and it greatly reduces the amount of copper that you need, which is still significant. Yeah, we get, let's see, the standard recipe for copper ingot is 1-to-1, right? Let me see here. Copper ingot. I want that on the outputs. There we go. Yeah, so copper ingot, it's 1-to-1 ratio of copper ore to copper ingots. Whereas with this recipe, it's like 2.5. You get 2.5 ingots for every copper. So that significantly reduces the amount of copper that you need. And we need quite a lot of copper ingots, over 1,000 per minute. But using this recipe, I can do that with only 412 copper ore per minute. Right, and then like we did before, steel rotors and stators. That way we can make both parts with the same ingredients. And again, I'm using the fused wire recipe to make the copper wire. Adding a little bit of Caterium stretches that copper out quite a lot and allows you to make a lot of wire with many fewer machines. Right, so to get all this done, we need the aluminum ingots, which we've already got producing. We're going to need quite a lot of quartz. We're going to need quite a lot of copper, a little bit of Caterium, some steel pipe, some sulfur, and some plastic. Okay. So again, this breakdown, I think, makes it a lot easier to manage, and the way that we'll do this when we build it is we'll build this first, and then we'll build this part, and then finally we'll build this part, and we'll do each one separately. They don't necessarily have to be separated on the map, but each one will have its own dedicated space, probably next to the others, but we'll break it down into more manageable chunks to build it and to design it, and this I think helps make it easier to comprehend what's going on and what we have to do. All right, now all of this brings me to the next issue that I had to tackle, which is the fact that with the factory as previously done, we were going to be short on rubber and plastic and steel pipe and Caterium ingots in order to make all this. So that's what the before is. So like this is like this is our current plastic and rubber production. This is our current steel production, and this is our current. Well, Caterium right now is we were just making as part of the phase 2 factory. But in any case, I had to make some changes in order to satisfy this plus everything else that we're already producing. So that's what these version 1.1 factories are for. Because what I did here is this is what we're currently producing, right? Before 1.1. This is where we are right now. So I'm producing, 240 rubber, 240 plastic, and so on. And then this column shows our consumption, where I just add up in each of the different phases how much we need, right? So we can see, for example, we need 358 rubber per minute, and I'm only making 240. And we'll need 264 plastic per minute. I'm only making 240, right? So we need more rubber and more plastic. When it comes to steel, I need a lot more steel pipe than I'm making right now, which is 176. And I actually don't need any steel plate. I'm not using steel plate to make anything other than Mark III belts, pretty much. So I still do need to produce steel plate for our own use, but we certainly don't need 150 a minute. And then I need more Caterium ingots. Right now we're making 80 a minute, and I'm going to need over 200 a minute, right? So we have to make adjustments to all these. So that's where these 1.1 factories come in. And this is where we'll be after we make those changes. So in the same place, we'll be able to make 600 of each rubber and plastic per minute, which gives us plenty to satisfy our production. And it's going to give us a heck of a lot more power, more than double. Previously, or currently, we're making 720 fuel per minute. With this new factory, and I'll get into the details shortly, we'll be making 1,800 per minute. So that's going to give us a nice boost of power, which we also need. For the steel, I'm basically just going to be rebalancing between pipes and plates. So we'll make more pipe and less plate with the same amount of input materials. And that'll take care of us there for the for the steel parts. And then for Caterium ingots, we'll have to upgrade what we were currently doing before. All right, and then this way we still have a surplus of all these ingredients after we have phase 4 running. Okay, so let's take a look at these changes. So for oil, this is what we have right now, right? We're doing 12 machines making plastic, 12 making rubber, and then I have this crazy packaged water, packaged fuel loop, which took me forever to build, and is really cool, but we're getting rid of it. Okay, so this is the old oil, and we have 2 pure nodes and 2 normal nodes for oil. So what we're going to do in the new version of the oil factory is we're going to overclock all the oil extraction by 250% to get the maximum amount, which in this case will be 1800 crude per minute. And then we'll have 30 refineries of each, plastic and rubber. Now you can see that rubber produces twice as much heavy oil residue as plastic does. So increasing rubber production means good things as far as power production goes, because we'll get, we're going to get 600 from the rubber and only 300 from the plastic. So I think it makes sense to try to maximize rubber and minimize plastic, just so you get more fuel. And now since we have blenders, we can do diluted fuel directly in a blender, just by taking the heavy oil residue and adding water. And we're going to need quite a lot of water, so we're going to have a lot of pipes. Right, we'll need 3 Mark II pipes just for the water, and the same for the oil. So in any case, 18 blenders, and that'll give us 1800 fuel per minute. Now power wise, that will be enough to run 90 generators. That's going to give us 22 gigawatts. So that's a significant improvement in terms of our power. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to have to basically turn off all of this in order to rebuild it the way that we need it. So I'm hoping that the power that we're producing as part of our aluminum production will be enough to keep us running in the meantime. It might not. That'll leave us with 8,400. Right, aluminum's given us 8,400 power. And then I have my coal power, which is 3,600. So I'll have about 11 or 12 gigawatts, plus the bonus. So let's say 13 or 14 gigawatts once I shut this down. Okay, I should be fine. I'm not even consuming 10. Yeah. So we should be good to shut this down to rebuild it. I am going to have to expand this platform. I'm going to try to not have to disturb the train station over there, because that'll be kind of messy. So my plan is to, expand this platform this way. We can expand out that way a bit. And if necessary, I can also build a second level above it. I would have to add some pumps to pump the fluids, but it should be doable. And honestly, we could also expand out this way too, so maybe, for example, maybe we can build a giant platform like out here to put all the generators or something, because we're going to need a heck of a lot. What was it, 96 generators, something like that? That's a hell of a lot of generators. Right, and then this beautiful mess here with the packaging of the water and the diluted packaged fuel, and then unpackaging it, that's that's all going to go away. Unfortunately, I'm kind of proud of this build. I think it came out really good, but yeah, we're going to have to rip that up and build essentially all of this 3 times as big as it currently is. So because that's going to give us the power, I think that's the first thing that I'm going to work on upgrading will be the plastic and rubber. Okay, now let's take a look at steel. So you remember from steel, we have 3 pure iron nodes and 3 pure coal nodes with Mark II miners, and those are happily giving me 1,080 steel ingots per minute, which I turn into different stuff. So with steel 1.1, this is one of the easier things that we're going to change here. All I'm doing is I'm getting rid of the 2 overclocked machines that are making steel beams. Right, so if you look at the current steel design, I've got 6 machines making beams, and then I have 2 machines overclocked at 200% each. So in effect, I have 10 machines making steel beams right now, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce that to 6, and then I'm going to add another 8 machines making steel pipes. So I'm going to be producing the same amount of ingots as before. None of that changes. I'm just going to be changing the balance between pipes and steel plates, and that'll take care of what we need. So this will be fairly simple to get set up. And then for the Caterium, presently I'm using just regular smelters from the Caterium ore, and what am I think I'm using like 5 smelters or something. We have that 1 pure node, so the only change I'm going to make here is I'm going to update to a Mark III miner, which will give us 480 ore per minute from that single node, and we're going to use the pure Caterium ingot recipe, which will give us 240 ingots per minute with the addition of some water. Now, the water might be a little bit tricky because where we have the Caterium set up right now, we're not really close to any large bodies of water. Let's go over there and take a look. There are some streams close by. And I know that there's one area of the stream where it is deep enough to put water extractors, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to fit 4. So we'll see how many we can fit. We might have to overclock in order to get the water that we need. But let's go over there and take a look at that right now. That's going to be closest to the steel, the steel / phase 3 factory, which will be over here. I hooked up this tube the other day to make it easier to get back and forth from the main part of the base, or from the home base. While we're traveling there, to make things like the Mark III miners, we're going to need turbo motors and supercomputers and some of that stuff that we're not making yet. And things like turbo motors that require nitrogen gas, you can't handcraft those. So, but if you look in my inventory, you'll see that I do have some of those items. Where are we here? Yeah, so I have some fused modular frames and supercomputers, radio control units. Radio control units, I think you can handcraft easily enough. Turbo motors you can't because you need nitrogen. So all I did for those is I just bought a couple stacks of each of those just so I can build a few Mark III miners and things like that to get off the ground. You'll find those in parts. So once you unlock them in the hub or in the MAM, you'll be able to come and buy those using your Fix-It coupons. And if you've been following along with me and building like I am, by now you should have hundreds of Fix-It coupons. I have quite a lot of them. I spent a lot of time in here trying to figure out how to plan things while the factory's running. So, and as long as the factory's running, we're producing coupons, right? So you can just come in and buy a few stacks of whatever you need. You know, some of these are 8 coupons is kind of expensive, but you know, supercomputers, all this stuff. It's not cheap, but it makes things a lot easier. So I think it's worth it. And anytime you need more coupons, all you have to do is just load up your game and let it run overnight. And in the morning, you'll have more coupons. You know, it's not rocket science. Okay. Oh yeah, Caterium. Let's head over to the Caterium node. Yeah, so this is it over here. And this is feeding the phase 2 factory over there. It's feeding the phase 3 factory over here. And then we will also be feeding the phase 4 factory. Now, where will the phase 4 factory be? That was another bit of a challenge, right? Because according to our model, if we look at the first stage here, we need a lot of quartz, we need a lot of copper, and we need sulfur, and we need Caterium, right? And then the plastic and the steel will come in either by belt or by train. We haven't built a train station for steel yet, but we can. It'll be easy to add one in to export. But yeah, we need to make sure that we have those. So the biggest things that I'm looking for here are proximity to copper, proximity to quartz, and proximity to sulfur. And we also need some water. So I decided to build the phase 4 factory over here, on top of this bit of water, because you'll remember this is the cave entrance where we have 2 pure quartz nodes, plus a normal one. There's also a SAM node in here where we're making the reanimated SAM. And it'll be kind of a pain to get it out of the cave. You know, we'll have to run belts all through this cave system to get it out here. But once we come out, there is a copper node here. Now this copper node it's only a single normal copper node, but there are also 2 pure copper nodes that are not terribly far away that we can belt in from. Pardon me. And if we look at requirements, we need 412 a minute. Whoops, sorry about that. We need 412 a minute, which honestly we can get out of that single node by just using a Mark III miner and overclocking it. So I think we'll probably just do that and then not have to bother tapping into those 2 over there and belting it over. These are also up on top of a cliff, so yeah. So I prefer just to overclock this one with a Mark III to get everything that we need. We won't have any trouble getting the quartz that we need out of there for the quartz production. We'll have all this water, you know, for the pure quartz ingots and so forth, the pure copper ingots. So I think this will be a good place. And then there are 2 impure sulfur nodes. Again, impure, not the greatest, but I only need 90 a minute, which I can get with an overclocked Mark II miner, or honestly just an underclocked Mark I miner, or Mark III miner rather. So that'll be easy enough too. And then there's also some coal and some sulfur, you know, another sulfur node here. So at some point I might want to use that to make compacted coal, to make rocket fuel or things of that nature. There's a boatload of oil up here. You know, and initially I thought rather than redesigning this plastic factory, maybe I should just build another one over here to feed the phase 4 factory, but I don't know. I didn't want to do that, so I think we'll just I'll just rebuild the current plastic factory. You know, it's already there. It's already linked to the train network. And that'll, again, I'm trying to keep things simple. That'll make it simple. I'll just have to run rail line over there. And I think I'll probably do that by continuing this railway straight through the main part of the base. Come up here, you know, probably just go straight or at an angle and then just come over like this, and then get over to this area. And then, you know, we can either belt steel over, which is probably what I'll do, honestly, because I've already got, you know, I already have belts and platforms set up that'll get us all the way over there from here. So, again, to keep things simple, I think I may just belt the steel products over. Anything that's coming from the phase 2 or phase 3 factory, I can belt over. The Caterium, I can belt over. Right? They're pretty long runs of belts, but who cares? It'll be a lot quicker and easier than you know, building more train stations and stuff like that. Maybe not quite as fun, but I'm here first and foremost to get the job done. So, yeah. So this is the place. And we're going to start by building our 1.1 versions of what we have previously set up, right? So these 3 things will get done first. Then we'll go into phase 4.4 minus 2. Then we'll do phase 4 minus 1, and then we'll do phase 4 final. And then we'll get into phase 5, and we'll find out that everything that we built up until now is undersized and has to be reworked again, or who knows? We'll find out when we get there. But for now, I think this is a solid plan to get to the end of phase 4. So, with all that being said, I haven't built anything. Oh, let's take a look at the water for the Caterium. I'll put on my jetpack here momentarily, or temporarily, however you want to say it. Yeah, so there's this little bit of water right here that will accept 1 or 2 pumps. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get 2 here. All right, there's 1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think we'll be good. Yeah, we should be able to fit 4. I think we'll be able to fit 4 water extractors there. You know, or fewer if I overclock them. But we should be able to get the job done here for the pure Caterium ingots. And then we can just ship them by belt where we need them. Right, so, yeah, so the Caterium, I'll rebuild. Let's see, do I want to keep it right here? I think it would probably be better to move the production where the water is. In fact, if I build the production down here close to the ground level, I can have the production at a lower elevation than the water, and that way I won't have to use any pumps, you know, to get the water up. I can just have it flow downhill and let gravity do the work for me. So I think I'll do that. We'll leave the miner here. Actually, I think I need to upgrade this to a Mark III, so I'll do that. But then we'll just move the Caterium production down here someplace where I have enough room to set up. How many was it? 20 refineries. Yeah, we can do it. All right. So I've already taken up quite a lot of time just discussing the plan, so I think we'll leave it at that for now. but now that the plan's set and I know what to do and where to do it, I'll be back with more videos before too long. I won't make you wait another 2 weeks or whatever it's been since my last one. And we'll be able to get to work on this stuff pretty quickly, and hopefully it'll all work. All right, so thanks a lot for watching, everybody. I'll see y'all soon.